we have the side view mirrors. Now, if you were in Europe, you would have got the camera feed with a small screen on the side of the door, and that wouldn't have been really practical for the Indian roads. So Audi has surely done the thinking for the Indian market. Ladies and gentlemen, today we have the all-new Audi e-tron Q8 55 Sportback. And when I talk about the looks, it's totally got a whole new makeover and it's replacing the outgoing e-tron. What really catches my eye right here is the futuristic and very classy looking 2D logo with a single illuminating light, the inverted grille, and we also have the e-tron logo right here, which only I can see from up close. Don't worry about the number plate, you will get it in green. We also have the digital matrix LED headlamps, and the A-vents adds to the feature of whole aerodynamics. Coming up right here, we have the 20-inch alloys with thick rubber, which is obviously good for Indian roads anytime. Now, what really interests me is the red calipers. They look very subtle and yet very sexy with this color personally. So I really like that. Now, one very interesting thing. If you're bored, you can just come play. It spins, the logo spins. Coming up to the charging port, with one single click, it opens. We have dual charging ports, so if you cannot charge here, you can go to the other side. And one single button, very simple. Personally, I like the sloping roofline with the Sportback, but if you prefer more storage space, you can go back to the practical one. It comes with a 528-liter boot space with a space-saving tire and some little more storage right here. Anyway, let's talk about the single rear tail lamps coming from one end to the other, which is very common in all the cars nowadays. Maybe it's a new fashion trend, but what I really like is it has a very simplistic approach right here with just simple Q8 logo and the Audi logo right here and the e-tron badging. So I really like how it's very simple and classy. Anyway, now it's time for me to relax and let the boss take over.
Alright, this is the 55 Sportback, which gets 402 brake horsepower and 664 Nm of torque. That's the same as the base variant 50. What is not same is that one gets 335 brake horsepower. This one is actually selling the most. It outsells it by on a scale of 1:3. It also gets 114 kilowatt of battery. So they've managed to put a larger battery in the same dimensions of the outgoing e-tron, and this gives you a claimed WLTP range of 600 km, which is, I think, the single most important factor to know and gets a decision making when you buy an EV. And you buy a luxury EV, that's also more important. You also get 2 charging docks as the same as the outgoing e-tron, which is, I think, a very practical thing in today's day and age, because India is not marginalized. You can get charging ducts anywhere. You have to reverse, adjust, and all of that thing. You get away with the hassles. I've been living with the e-tron for quite some time. I can tell you that from the interiors, there is no change, which is not a bad thing, because I think the e-tron really is a well-rounded and well-packaged car. What has changed from inside is definitely this, because I see a metallic here, and that one has a wood finish, though you have options of many customizations in the car now. And the MMI screen is the same, which is 2 screens, one for climate control, one for all the functions, and it's haptic, so it's not really problem area when you're driving. You get to choose everything from here. The speaker system also is very nice. You can actually tune the speaker system to the front, back, or focus on all of that. Now, for the rear passenger, if you are going to be chauffeured around, you can only choose the rear, because if you do focus, the rear doesn't get that much of a sound quality as you would expect. In terms of steering, I just love Audi's steering for the e-tron especially. It is so precise. It makes the car so nimble, though it's a 2.5 tons car, it's a big battery pack. Still, you feel that you're driving maybe a go-kart. What Mira was just doing, something like that. It is so precise, and handling, you really can't complain, because it just shoots like a dart when you are going to give some acceleration. That's another good thing about an EV. You have drive select modes, all of them. These paddle shifters is actually not the paddle shift that you would want. They are meant for more recuperation, so you can adjust your recuperation level, and especially if you're going downhill and if you want to recuperate and brake, there are ways of increasing the range. I've used that myself from Lonavala to my place, and I gained almost 40 kilometers. Yes, the range what is shown here, and when you start driving, it completely changes. Thankfully, they've not given us that camera feed mirror. Otherwise, you know, you have to change a habit of 20 years of driving looking at the rear view mirror, and you get a camera feed which is there in European markets, and I've spoken to the folks there, and you get a visibility right here, and that makes life very difficult. But I'm sure in future, as there's a tech warfare going on among all the manufacturers, which I don't understand, they will go for the overkill and they'll give us all that gadgetry which is not important, not required. Make life simple. I don't want a camera feed here. I can see it clearly from the rear view mirror. That makes my calculations much more better. I don't know, what do you think about it? Drop in the comments whether you like Audi to come up with a camera feed here, or you think this is good. I would love to hear about that. In terms of overall dimensions, in terms of ride quality, it is absolutely flawless. You know, I have to give that to Audi because it's, as I said, it's a very well-round, well-packaged car, both in the back seat, both in the front seat, and in terms of acceleration, look at it. It is really very, very nice, and it's more silent. The NVH levels, I think, has been really taken care of. You don't come to know, just like any other EV, when you're when the ignition is on, when the ignition is off. So that's something that you have to learn to live with it. Everything about this car is actually spot on. With the price announcement, which will come around August, we'll know exactly what, but we know the range. It should be on the same range mark, about 1 crore, 10 lakhs here and there. When you are going to compare that with iX, you might think that the iX has much more in terms of, you know, interiors, etc. You might like that more. If you have to summarize this car with overall scheme of things, with the battery pack, especially with the range and with the build quality, it's a more practical car. You get a good boot, you get a good range, and what is missing in the iX is a battery pack and the range. It's actually half of this. So if you have to compare, you have to be really conscious about driving. Yeah, design is subjective. You have to take your call on that. But if you have to put everything together, e-tron 55 Sportback makes a lot of sense. Suspension. It's smooth like air because it gets air suspension. It gets 176 mm of ground clearance, which is, I think, a very optimum size in an SUV because it gives you the pliant ride quality. At the same time, it's enough to pass over most of the naturally dug craters and holes that you get on our Indian roads. Cruise control is located here, and you have to get used to a couple of times to get used to that. But once you get used to that, if you're driving on highway, it is the best way to extract last pound of mileage from an EV. It's the best way to drive because it's also, I would really suggest that you should use cruise control more and more, especially when you're driving long distance. You get to really enjoy the car in totality. What I don't like is the way you charge your wireless charging. You have to really slide it into a side pocket here, and you can't use the phone while you're doing that. You can't even see, and if you have to always take it out. So that's something very cool, but at the same time it's good because, you know, when you are even doing turns, it doesn't really slide out. And there's this tray here which when you slide open, you get the coffee mug. So you have to really go very deep to get the coffee mug. At first you'll be confused whether there's a coffee mug holder or not, and that is how this whole thing is very situated. The storage space doesn't change from the outgoing e-tron. It's the same way. You get a very nice lever, which is very nice to hold. It's aluminum brushed metal here, but I would have liked if it was completely covered because, you know, a lot of things sometimes gets messier when you keep things around, and by habit you'll have keys, you'll have wallets, you'll have all of this thing, and it doesn't make for a nice side. That's all about it. Visibility is perfect. You get to see both sides of the bonnet. You can adjust your seats the way you want it seated. This in front of you, the leather, could have been a little more better because, you know, when you're talking about the price point it comes to, you need to see those touches, those touches of aristocracy and luxury thrown everywhere. But It's a very well-rounded car. If you compare this with the BMW iX, which is its nearest competition, and I think the only competition because it's an SUV, it gets twice the range and it also is more practical. That's a more good-looking car or not good-looking car. Either you'll hate it or like it, but the interiors of the iX is more gorgeous. That I'll have to say that. But if you have to take a decision, and if you like the Audi brand, then this will make for a lot of practicality because the boot, because of the way it's completely built, and also because of the range and battery pack, and the ride quality, everything is very good. BMW is a driving machine. Audis are more meant to be driven around, and they're not known for really driver's car. With an EV, the whole equation changes. This one completely changes the game with it being an EV. But here's a small story. Audi India has registered a growth of 97% in the first 6 months of 2023. They have sold around 3,500 cars, which brings them back in the game. Honestly, they had lost the plot some time back. But with its new strategy, with the e-tron range, and with the overall, the way they have rebuilt themselves, and overall with the aspiration of people going up post-COVID, everybody wanting a good piece of vehicle to be owned, to move around, things have changed. And it's only going to get better and better because the range of cars which will come in future from Audi and from other luxury cars is going to get better. But that's a different story for some other day. But how's it going at the back seat, Mira?
For that, you'll have to pull over, although I'm very comfortable right now. When I talk about comfort, the leather seats are very comfortable and very luxurious. We have an armrest right here where two people can rest their arms easily. The cup holder slides out easily. Some storage space to keep our phones. On the side here, we have the side blinds, a good touch, but I would have preferred if it was automatic because isn't this a luxurious car? We have a touchscreen panel right here for the climate control. And then going up here, we have the panoramic sunroof, which makes the cabin feel more roomier. Overall, the luxury and comfort of this car is approved by me. Boss, why don't you give your verdict now? And don't forget to mention that the rear window glass doesn't go down fully.
Point noted, Mira. Rear glass not going all the way down is definitely a point. But the verdict will not be complete till I show you the other variant, the SUV style. Look at it. Even this looks pretty good, I would say. And it gets you more boot space. You also have more boot space in the front, with the front having about 63 liters, but you can't use it for anything more than charging cables or maybe a couple of things here and there. Now, it's time to summarize. Honestly, you only have two variants. If you are looking for an EV and if you have 1 crore stashed in your bank account and you want an SUV, you get two options, which is this, the Audi Q8 e-tron and BMW iX. BMW iX does a better job with the interiors. It looks more chic, more sophisticated. Interiors are beautiful. Audi should have upgraded the interiors when they have given us a new Q8 e-tron. All this is good. The new 2D logo, the whole design element, they've really played that part very well. It's a no-nonsense car. It looks very sophisticated, looks very spot on, looks very strong, I would say. But the BMW iX does a better job with interiors. Audi overall is a good package. It comes with a larger range, and that to me is a deal breaker because this is just 2x the range, real-time real range with iX. Now, if you summarize everything, it won't be a bad idea to actually buy this and park it in your garage. What do you say?